You can pick up a fair bit of tech for £450 these days, such as the latest games consoles, a decent smartphone handset perhaps, or even a large screen 4K TV. But you can also get this, the Cooler Master HAF 700 Evo. We recently reviewed the HAF 500, which was relatively tame for a HAF case. With the HAF 700 Evo, Cooler Master has gone big, quite literally. But is it any good? Let's find out. So the Cooler Master HAF 700 Evo is Cooler Master's real return to HAF. It's an absolutely massive case. It measures around 650mm or more than 650mm from front to back. It's over 600mm tall and about 290mm wide. So the only case in recent years that I've seen that is in this kind of size range is something like the Corsair 1000D, and it's also priced roughly in that bracket as well. The HAF 700 Evo is going to be $499 US. We think maybe that'll convert to around about 450 or between 450 to 500 pounds. So there's not a lot of competition in that sector. So you could say that it'll be quite easy for this to be good. If the HAF 700 Evo is better than the 1000D, then you could say, well, Cooler Master's cracked it. But when you're spending that kind of money on a case, personally I think it's got to be absolutely perfect. So let's see what Cooler Master has brought with the HAF 700 Evo. You've obviously got high airflow. As you can see, front panel includes mesh and there's some big fans up front as well. So obviously that should mean that the case has got good airflow coming in from the front at least. But also with HAF, it also means innovation as well. So I'm expecting to see innovative new features in the HAF 700 Evo, as well as maybe older features that have been adapted to make building a system easier for the user. I know one of the key points with the engineers when they were designing the HAF 700 Evo was to make the build process as easy as possible or as toolless as possible. So panels, installing parts, installing fans, radiators, storage and everything, just about everything in this case is a tool-free process. Let's dive in and have a look at what is actually going on with the HAF 700 Evo. As I said, it is a big case. It also is a heavy case as well. It weighs something like 24 kilograms. And you can see there's a combination of kind of a gunmetal grey going on the front panel and on the top. We've got some tempered glass and obviously mesh. And also at the front, we've got these vertical rows of tempered glass that give the case a real unique look. And you can see these are illuminated by some RGB lighting. So removing all the panels is a tool-free process. First, you need to slide back the top panel and then that just lifts out. As you can see on there, I've got a large mesh vented section. Doesn't have a dust filter in there, but generally the top panel is used as an exhaust, so probably doesn't need a dust filter. And then to remove the side panels, it's pretty simple. They just pull off and they're just held in position on these pins. So there's a very slight tint to the tempered glass side panel. It's only very slight, so should still be able to see inside the system pretty well. And then on the front panel, you've got quite a bit going on. So down the side here, we've got a HAF logo. Again, this is the gunmetal grey. Cooler Master actually called it a titanium grey. The round thing at the front here, this is a display. So you'll be able to display system information and things like that. You need to connect this up to the motherboard to have this running. So we'll take a look at the features that you get with that very soon. And then also on the front panel is the front I/O, and it's kind of split from left to right. So on one side we've got a power and reset button, and then two 3.5mm audio jacks, individual ones for headphones at the bottom, and then microphone as well. And then on the other side we've got four USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type A ports, and then one USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type C port. So that's a good healthy amount of USB ports on the front panel. I like to see that. In a case that costs this much, you would expect that many ports at least. So to remove this front panel, there's actually a lever at the bottom and you have to kind of pull it towards you and then pull the front panel off. This has got to be probably one of the heaviest front panels I've felt. That's probably at least a couple of kilograms there. We've got the mesh as well. This is called Cooler Master fine mesh V2. It's not as fine as some cases like the TD500, which the TD500 front mesh acts as a dust filter as well. That's not the case with the HAF 700 Evo, because behind there is a removable dust filter, and you can see that mesh is too big probably to stop any dust from entering the system. Also at the top there you can see there's the LED strip. Behind the front panel are two 200mm sickle flow 200 fans, no RGB, they're just the plain black ones with the opaque blades. The case has a dual chamber layout, and it's split vertically rather than horizontally with the power supply underneath. So in this side you install motherboard, CPU, graphics card, any cooling hardware, all installed in this side. Dual chamber layout as well improves your options for cooling, so you can install radiators on the floor, on the front and the roof. And then in the other side obviously there's just the power supply, all the cables and some additional storage in there. On the floor you can fit up to a 420mm radiator or 340mm fans. Same in the front, up to a 420mm radiator in there. And then in the top panel you can fit either up to two 360mm radiators side by side, or a single 420mm radiator. And then down this side mount here you can fit up to a 480mm radiator. So plenty of options for liquid cooling with the HAF 700 Evo. And then to remove the right hand side panel, it's same as this tempered glass panel, so it's just pull it off the locking pins, and as you can see there's two vents in this panel as well, one for the power supply, one for the side mounted radiators, and the dust filters are just magnetic, they come off as well. To install radiators on the floor and on the front of the case, you've got these brackets. These have just a little plastic tab that you rotate and then they pull out tool free. The whole bracket comes out, and then you can install either 340mm fans in this bracket, or you could install up to a 420mm radiator. And also if you remove the thumb screw and then just loosen off these two kind of wing nuts at either side, the brackets can be opened up and placed on like an angle, so you could potentially have your radiator on the floor at an angle facing up, maybe if you want to show off the fans, or if you wanted to show off the radiator. You may have noticed as well that the bracket on the floor has some more panels that remove, and again just the plastic tab just releases them, and again these come off with a toolless design. These are for mounting either a SSD or HDD, to 2.5 inch, 3.5 inch drives will fit on here. And you also notice there's some other holes as well for water pumps, so these are DDC and D5 mounting holes. Again, this bracket on the floor, just open up the lever and that lifts out, and you can see you've got a floor mounted sickle flow 120 ARGB fan in there. Actually along the floor of the case, that is a big vented section as well, and the dust filter that pops out there as well. Another small panel that removes pretty easily as well is this kind of protection for cable management. So just a single thumb screw and that just lifts out, and you can see there's cable grommets. Actually you can lower that down and put it over the bottom one. I guess if you've got an XL ATX motherboard it's going to cover that up, so there's an extra cable grommet there. And the rest of the cutouts you can see are also grommeted as well, and again Cooler Master has put in additional grommets if you've got wide eATX motherboards. Another removable panel is the whole top of the case, so you have to actually undo some screws for this. So there's just two normal Phillips screws. Let's take both of those out, and then all the top of the case is removable, so you can potentially install your radiators on your bench and then pop the panel back in position with all the radiators in there. So you can see plenty of space for motherboards in here as well. This accepts up to an eATX motherboard, so obviously mini ATX, micro ATX is supported. I can't imagine many people would install micro ATX or mini ATX in here. This also will allow you to install something like the ROG Dominus Extreme, an EEB board. So I guess also as well you're going to be able to fit XL ATX in here, because it is a 8-slot PCIe configuration at the back. You may have also noticed as well there's a mirror installed in here. I don't think I've seen a mirror installed in a PC case before. Again, that can be removed tool free. There's just two thumb screws around the back. Loosen off the thumb screws and that mirror comes out. So this mirror can also be installed in other places, like on these fan brackets. So you could install it in one of those, put it back on the floor of the case here, and then you can put it on a tilt. So you could tilt it up like that, and then you'd be able to see underneath your graphics card, so you'd be able to see the fans and maybe some RGB from the graphics card. That is actually quite funny, that mirror, because it reminds me of something from my youth when I used to go to car shows. You used to have like the show and shine concourse guys that were really passionate or enthusiastic about cleaning the cars, and they used to have mirrors on the floor all around the car, so when you used to walk around the car you'd be able to look down and see how clean the underneath of the car is. That's what that is. In the back of the case we've got a couple more 120mm fans. You can also install up to a 240mm radiator in the back of the case here. These are the Cooler Master SickleFlow 120 ARGB fans, same as the one that was mounted on the floor. Another feature that's tool free is installing your graphics cards or PCIe add-in cards. At the back of the case is just a little door that you pull open, and then you can just remove the PCIe slot covers. So I'm going to take a couple of those out. And you can just pop in your graphics card as normal, close the door, and that locks it in place. In terms of storage, there's also lots of options available. You can fit up to 15 2.5 inch or 3.5 inch drives, 3 on each of these radiator brackets. Another 2 2.5 inch or 3.5 inch drives can be installed on this removable plate again. The little plastic tab makes it a tool-free removal. You install the drives on this side, so they are in the inside, and then you can fit 3 more 2.5 inch or 3.5 inch drives again on these removable trays. And then there's another storage bay that will allow you to install up to 4 2.5 or 3.5 inch drives. This just releases with a little latch on the top, and then it twists out. Inside here you can see you've got 4 of these plastic hard drive cages, and they're again a tool-free installation for 3.5 inch drives, and they just slot back in position quite easily. Below that storage bay there's space for a full-size ATX power supply that just slides in from this side, and again it's tool-free installation. There's just 2 thumb screws at the back that hold it in position. And also you can see around here you've got plenty of space for cable management. There's already quite a lot of cables built into this case because of the RGB and the display on the front. You'll also notice that there's a fan hub up here as well, and you can install 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 fans in there, and also connect up RGB, and then the RGB goes to a separate RGB controller, and then that can be connected to the motherboard and configured using the Cooler Master Master Plus software. And there's also this kind of central cable channel and just a couple of plastic clips, so you can just put your cables in there, push those clips in position, and they should keep everything neat and tidy. If you enjoy what we do here at Kit Guru, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you're feeling really generous and you want to help support us in other ways, you can always subscribe to our Patreon or head over to our store and pick up some merchandise. And as always, if you want to catch up on the in-depth technical reviews, head over to the website. It's all well and good talking about the features of a new case, but I think to really see how good it is and see what it's like to work with in the real world, the only way to test it out is to build a full system inside. And because of the price of this case, the size of it and everything else, we're going to have to go with a high-end system. So the motherboard is this Z690 ROG Maximus Hero. CPU is an Intel Core i9-12900K. For memory, we'll be using this Kingston Fury Beast DDR5 5200 megahertz. Because we're not using this system long term, the storage is just a 1TB PMY XLR8 Gaming CS3040 M.2 NVMe SSD, PCIe Gen 4 with speeds up to 5600 megabytes per second. Power supply is this Seasonic Prime Titanium 850 watt unit. Graphics card is a Palit RTX 3080 Gaming Pro. You can see we've already got a EKWB water block attached to that. That's because the cooling system is going to be a full custom loop. I'm going to try and fit in 2 420mm radiators in here and an FLT 360 reservoir, probably mounted on this side mount here. So that is what we're planning on using. Let's see how it goes. So the build's complete. I'm happy with how it's turned out. I went for kind of like an angular design with the tubing on the custom loop. That's worked out nice. That looks really good. And let me know what you think to it in the comment section. Do you like how the build's turned out? Overall, the build went pretty straightforward. I like the fan mounting brackets. They seem to work well. Although I did have a slight issue with them when you install 340mm fans in there and you try and close the lid. There's actually a rivet that is kind of acts as the hinge, or it is the point where the bracket hinges. When you close down the bracket with 340mm fans in, the rivet actually gets in the way and you have to put a bit of force on it and force the top down, which is a bit of a pain. Also, you'll notice as well that the graphics card is mounted on a riser and it's vertically mounted. That riser, PCI Gen 4, the kit comes with the case. I had a slight issue with that as well. When you installed that, the graphics card sagged, which is not normally something you'd see, especially when the GPU is mounted vertically. So I ended up having to physically bend that upwards to take the sag out of the graphics card, which is a bit disappointing on a £450 case. You'd expect the quality of the bracket, the mounting bracket for that vertical mount to be a bit more substantial than that, so slightly disappointed. But other than those small niggles, it was a really easy case to build a system inside. You can see it's quite a complex custom loop with two radiators, two 420mm radiators, one in the top, one on the floor. They fit perfectly fine, no issue fitting those, plus the FLT 360 flat reservoir in there as well at the same time. So overall that went well. And also CPU block, I used a EK Magnitude block, the one with the black acetal front, and it's got like a satin silver mounting bracket frame that goes around it, and that works well with the satin titanium fittings that I use as well. So I'm happy with how it's turned out. Overall, like I said, it's a good case to build inside. There's plenty of space. Cable management at the back isn't a problem. It's all kind of covered up with that panel when you're finished anyway. Pretty happy with how it is to build the system in. just those minor niggles that were a bit more annoying more than anything. So earlier on in the review I mentioned this little display on the front of the case. I said I'd come back and show you how that works. If you want to adjust anything with the HAF 700 Evo, you have to use the Cooler Master Master Plus software. Not only do you adjust the display, but you also adjust the RGB lighting on there as well. So if you want to adjust RGB lighting, you just go to the RGB controller. By default the RGB is in a rainbow setting, and then you can switch to other RGB patterns. Or you could just have a static colour. If you want to mess around with the front display, you have to click on the HAF 700 section, and then you can either customise the logo that's on there, change the text, or if you want to display system information on there, you click the system tab, and then you can switch between things like the GPU clock, CPU and GPU temperature, system usage. You can also, if you want, display the time on there as well. Or you can switch to a multi-display, click on the multi-display tab, and then you can customize this. You can show GPU temperature, CPU temperature, and other system information, and you can choose the speed that it will scroll through that, so the display will automatically scroll through the various different bits of information you've selected. So quite a handy feature to have. We've obviously seen this before in various only one CPU coolers. A lot of them are going that way now with displays on the CPU block. This is nice to see on the front of a case instead, maybe for those of you that are going to have the case not on your desk but on the floor. Can see it quite clearly, so it looks nice, and it fits in nicely as well with that illuminated RGB tempered glass on there as well. So in terms of the thermal performance as well, I've run my usual full system stress tests. That includes the Cinebench R23 benchmark running in a loop for 60 minutes at the same time, simultaneously running the 3D Mark TimeSpy Extreme stress test. You can see during the various tests with the case in different configurations, CPU temperature was around 60 degrees delta, and GPU temperature, more than happy with that as well. The average delta 30 degrees C means that the actual GPU temperature never exceeded 50 degrees C, which is what we'd expect of a custom loop with two big radiators like this. So in terms of the thermals, case seems to have good airflow. Those two 200mm fans at the front run nice and quiet as well. During the test I had the fans on the radiators fixed at 850 RPM. The front 200mm fans, they were both fixed at 500 RPM. As you can see with the case in the various configurations, again the noise levels didn't really change. There's a slight increase in the noise levels with the case side removed. At around 40 decibels you can hear the system, but it's not all distracting. So that's it for the Cooler Master HAF 700 Evo. Overall, it's a good case. It's great for building a custom loop in. You can fit multiple big radiators, and as you can see, flat reservoir looks good in that side mount. Thermal performance is as you'd expect from a high airflow case. Seems to work really well. 200mm fans up front, give you plenty of airflow in. Overall, I like the looks as well. I like this front panel. I like that RGB tempered glass. The display on the front, that's a good little feature to have as well. The other features inside as well, such as all the toolless panel removal, graphics card installation, things like that, all seem to work perfectly fine. I wouldn't say that they're a massive innovation, because we've seen probably everything toolless before like that. So it's a good case. The size of it might put some people off. I can imagine that people switched off straight away when I said it's a large case. But the main issue for me is the price. The features that it has are not quite enough to justify that £450 price tag. It's not like it's made out of any, you know, exotic materials or anything like that. Side panels are steel, the top bits are plastic, there's no sound deadening material. I do like the look of that front panel. You know, that is probably where a lot of the cost has gone into with that display and with those bits of tempered glass, but it's still, you've got plastic bits on the side here. This is brushed aluminium. It's not plastic, it is actual brushed aluminium, but for me it's just not enough to justify that price. If you've enjoyed watching this review of the Cooler Master HAF 700 Evo, make sure you give us a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button Let us know what you think of this case in the comment section, and if you enjoy what we do here at Kit Guru and you want to help support us, you can always head over to our store, pick up some merch, subscribe to our Patreon, and as always, if you want to catch up on the in-depth technical reviews, head over to the website.